In this lesson, we're going to be working with Google Maps. The Android operating system was created by Google, and obviously Google Maps was as well. And Google has created an SDK that allows Android to talk to their mapping product fairly easily. The hardest part of it is really the setup. In this exercise, we're just going to have a screen that displays a map. And you'll see in the code that how we might be able to have a user input say where the map is, but the main point of the lesson is just to display the map. The setup is the hardest part, so let's take a look at that. The first thing we need to do is in our SDK manager, we need to download and install the Google APIs. This is not done by default when Mono is installed. You'll find the SDK manager under your Start Programs in the Android area. And you can just check Google APIs for whatever API level you're interested in and click Install Packages, and they'll be downloaded and installed. If you're going to work with an emulator, you need to create an emulator that supports it. So you go to the Virtual Device Manager and create an emulator using Google APIs at the API level that you prefer. Then you need to get a Google API key. And in the code there's a nice link to the Mono guide for how to get that API key. It requires running the application before you ever have the key so that you can get a hash that you provide Google in order to get an API key to be used. So it's a little bit twisted, but this is quite a good guide. In our layout, we use the API key right in there. And the only thing we've got in terms of controls is a map view control. And notice it comes from Google Android Maps, so it's not really shown up on the toolbox, so this is something that you have to add in XML. Once you've got all that set up, then the rest is easy. You get a map view object, and then you can set your zoom level. The zoom level goes up to 21, and that's the farthest zoom in that you can have. You get a location overlay from the map view object, and on the first fix, which is basically the first time the map is run, we want to set a location for it. In this case, I'm setting its center using a geopoint with a latitude and longitude. You've probably noticed that these aren't particularly good values for latitude and longitude as you know them. They're actually in micro degrees. So I'm actually looking at a latitude of 39.08 and a longitude of minus 78.21. So all I'm doing is taking those more common latitude and longitude degree values and multiplying them by 1,000,000. And then we just add our location overlay to the map view overlays. So that's really all we need to do in terms of the code. Another possibility is to use my location, so the map would go to wherever the user happened to be. And this of course would require for the permissions that we talked about in geocoding to be turned on for either coarse or fine location services. So we'll give it a run. And our map grid initially comes up, and now we're waiting for the overlay. And there's the overlay. If you run this and all you ever see is the map grid, that's probably an indication that your API key is not good. So that's how to set up and use Google Maps.